Hey, Coach, I've noticed when you make notes on a drawing, they're very organized and stylized. What's up with that?
Well, that's called architectural lettering. And well before this digital age, people had to make handwritten notes on blueprints. And the blueprints would be circulated between contractors, engineers, architects, all different kinds of people. And if everyone relied on their own handwritten notes, the next person that came across the blueprint wouldn't be able to read it. So a style was actually developed for architectural lettering to make annotations on blueprints. So that continues on today, and the field of industrial design adopted that lettering style for its drawings as well. Because if you think about blueprints for a product and blueprints for a building, they're fundamentally the same. So the takeaway, I think, is the fact that just like your drawings need to be imbued with a level of precision, so do your notes, right? People need to be able to read it. And there's really nothing worse than a beautiful sketch and horrible handwriting or notes that go off in all different kind of directions. So I've put together a quick little video here to kind of show you how I taught myself architectural lettering. I didn't take it in class. I didn't take it in graduate school. It was just something that I thought was fundamentally important for my communication skills. So take a look at the video and see if you can start practicing and incorporate this into your own sketch style. There are just a few fundamental aspects of this lettering technique that you need to be aware of, and then beyond that, it's just practice. But you can see, as I'm doing in the video here, all of my letters, the kind of the horizontal, what would be normally horizontal aspects of each letter, are on a consistent angle, and that's what the arrow is showing there. So I'm trying to keep all of my verticals absolutely vertical to the page. And then as I make my the cross members for each letter or number, then it goes at the same angle. That even pertains to the round letters. They're made up of two strokes, two arcs, and those arcs, like on the O and the Q, the 6 and the 8, they're all made up of segments, and the segments are controlled to be at that same angle as well. So when I first started lettering, I gave myself guidelines. And the trick is do not make them too wide and then make them also consistent around the page. So I'm recommending nothing more than a quarter of an inch. And not that you need to measure everything out and be so precise, but you should be able to kind of estimate or guesstimate the, what a quarter of an inch is. And in some cases, you might need more lines of notes. So leave yourself a little space between each quarter inch line guide, and you'll be fine. So just practice sticking within those guides. So I went back into the Coach K Sketch Vault and found a couple examples of sketches that I did in design school right at the time when I was teaching myself architectural lettering. So you can see examples right here of where and how I used guides to control the height of my text and notes. So there are a few things that have developed over the years for me and in my writing and annotation, and that is that some of my letters actually become rounded in certain spots. So you can look at my C, my L's, they actually have a roundness to them. In traditional architectural lettering, they would be very linear, intersecting strokes, really without any softness to it like that. Then you'll also see that some of my letters, in this case the P and the E, fall below, or particularly the P, fall below my guideline, right? But I'm trying to keep my strokes still at the same angle. So to kind of recap very quickly, don't make your guides too wide. It's very difficult to control large lettering. And also, keep your arrows simple. We haven't really gone and discussed action arrows very much yet, but I plan to do another video on that. But for now, you don't want the arrows to dominate your drawing. You want them to be features that help kind of assist the viewer in understanding where the notes apply to on your product sketch. So be consistent with your arrowheads and line width. I've gone with different arrowheads over the years, but this very simplified version is one that I kind of like a lot today because I can apply it consistently and very quickly. So I'm back to kind of the recap, right? So you want to keep all of your verticals perpendicular to your guides, and keep all of the cross members of each letter or number consistent at an angle. So think of every letter as being comprised of strokes as opposed to one continuous motion like script. You're breaking it down into its most fundamental. So individual strokes. So an M would be 4 strokes, and N would be 3 strokes. So I have a drawing here that I pulled out that I thought I would show you how I would really go about applying the notes. And I always say that the notes are graphic elements on the page. They're meant to be they're meant to assist in providing information to the viewer, but at the same time you don't want them to dominate. And like I said earlier, you don't want such horrible handwriting that it distracts from a beautiful sketch. So this is a way, my approach is to go around the page, think about what notes I want to apply, and as you're learning and practicing now, you can go ahead and apply your guides to the page even before you apply the actual annotations. So you can see that I'm actually aligning certain notes, keeping it very nicely organized and graphically consistent. And then I'll go in and I'll start applying my notes. So these can be references to color. In this case, those 3 images on the upper left are in a final version. Those would actually be color studies. They could be references to material, texture. In this case too, it could be notes could reference action, certain parts being removed or parts coming together, parts rotating or pivoting. And then what's also really important is that you put a date and maybe a signature on each page. What we don't generally think about in school is the fact that in industry, every idea has value. I mean, literal value. So as products are developed if it becomes apparent that there may be intellectual property, so that means a utility patent or design patent or trademark, if those things apply, there needs to be a trail. And the trail can exist from actually dating your material, which is very important. So as a good practice, you can start to date your drawings. You can add your signature for validation. And then the last thing I would say is, in terms of your sketches being reviewed by several people, it's important to label the actual product name and revision level. So, or it might be, this is concept A, this is concept B, if you want to distinguish between two. But that way, when you have conversations, particularly if it's not face to face, if you're communicating via Zoom or phone or whatever, then people immediately will be able to say, well, in concept B, and they'll be able to point out certain features.